Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jill Nimchek, and I am with the Wisconsin Out of School Time Alliance, a program of the Marshfield Clinic region of Sanford Health. Welcome today to our webinar on a virtual adventure in graphing with Daphne. This webinar is a part of a STEM or STEAM series, that's science, technology, engineering, art, and math, where we aim to support youth and their families and supplement your STEM or STEAM programming. We really hope that you leave here today with a few more tools to help you navigate this topic with greater confidence. This series is made possible through a partnership between the Wisconsin Out of School Time Alliance and the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. So I am pleased to introduce our speaker today, Caitlin Hensey, an education and outreach specialist at Storytelling with Data. So Caitlin, I will hand it over to you to explain a little bit more about yourself and the program that we have today.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Jill, and thank you all for joining. I am going to share my screen. Caitlin Hensey. I am the education and outreach specialist at a small company that's located here in Milwaukee called Storytelling with Data. For many years, Storytelling with Data has been helping adults, business professionals, nonprofit leaders, educators, any type of adult learn how to tell more effective data storytelling presentations through creating more meaningful charts and graphs, and then also presenting the data in a way that is helpful for the audience. Okay, great. The screen sharing is up, so I will go ahead and add that. So today what we are going to do is talk about how storytelling with data can apply to kids. So I will take us through a fun little presentation, and we'll actually get started by just welcoming each other, saying hello in the chat. So if you have the ability, you can type in the chat. You don't need to type your name because we have your names, but if you want to say your name, what you prefer to be called, where you're located, maybe a little bit about the age range of the students that you support, and why you're passionate about teaching STEM. That will kind of give us an idea of who's all on this call. Hi, Nikki. Anyone else able to introduce themselves in the chat? Hi, Angie. Thanks for introducing yourselves. And Kelly. Maria. Wonderful. Wow, it's a good age range of kids, six weeks to 13 years. Welcome, Tasha. All right, awesome. Thank you for those who introduced themselves. We will get started today. I did already talk to you a little bit about me, but I will share with you a little bit more about how Storytelling with Data got its start. So we started with our founder and author, Cole Knaflick, writing her very first book called Storytelling with Data, which is how we created the company. And this book really sets the foundation for more effective data storytelling skills. So all of you are adults, and we're going to be focusing on the kids' book and the kids' resources and graphing activities today. However, as adults, we all have to give presentations in a variety of different ways. So if you're looking to upskill yourself in either the graphing portion of data, so turning those numbers into effective visuals, or the storytelling with data portion, how do you talk about your data and present it in a way that inspires change and gets people to act, I would recommend looking at the Storytelling with Data book. Since that book was published, which has now sold hundreds of thousands of copies and in over 30 different languages, Cole has written two more books, Let's Practice, which is a workbook, and then Storytelling with You, which is more focused on the presentation aspect of data storytelling. And she's currently in the final stages of editing and about ready to publish our fifth book, which will be coming out later this year. So their website's here. You can explore it. There's a ton of free resources, podcasts, blog, all sorts of different tools that can help you enhance your data storytelling skills as an adult. With kids, our passion is to help develop these data drawing superpowers at a young age because we really do believe that this is a skill that kids will need no matter what profession they end up going into. Hopefully, you all are here today because you're passionate about STEAM learning, and Daphne Draws Data fits into STEAM in a variety of ways. It's definitely geared towards the math curriculum, but it also is geared towards arts and technology because that's where a lot of graphs are created, and can get into the science piece as well when you're using those numbers to solve problems or come up with a solution. So since Daphne Draws Data was published in September of 2024, we have been working with schools, nonprofit organizations, after-school programs like WASTA, and other types of tutoring centers to give presentations to groups of kids to teach them how to graph and get them engaged in graphing in a really fun and exciting manner. And today I'll give you a little taste of what that's like. We'll do a demo as if you were students in the classroom so that the hope would be you can replicate what we're doing today with the children that you help teach and give them a little taste of what graphing is like. I'll give you plenty of resources at the end that you can access online, tools, lesson plans, graphing activities, learning videos that you can use in your settings, and you'll be able to help kind of spark this curiosity in STEM in a way that keeps kids actively engaged going forward. So I figured we'd start by reading a portion of the book. So you'll see the cover of the book here. Hopefully some of you will have the opportunity to see the book and get the book in 3D form. We'll talk about how to get it and where to order it after we're done. But I'll read the first little section of the book just so you can get a feel for what the adventure is like when kids experience Daphne Draws Data. Daphne was a dragon who loved to draw. She drew everything around her, trees and birds, mountains and rainbows. The more Daphne drew, the happier she felt. Daphne also enjoyed drawing something a little unusual: data. Data is information you can use to understand something better. Daphne liked to turn numbers, her favorite kind of data, into pictures called graphs to answer questions and help others. Data, shouted her older brother Declan when she showed him her latest masterpiece. Dragons don't do data. Dragons are fierce. Everyone is afraid of them. But Daphne didn't want to be scary. She wanted to be liked for being smart and kind. So she left her cave in search of a place where she could be herself. Daphne started in the jungle. Ooh, ooh, ee, yelled a monkey as it climbed up a tree. I'm not dangerous, Daphne shouted back. Just because I'm a dragon doesn't mean I walk around breathing fire. The monkey popped out. Hi, I'm Daphne, the data drawing dragon. I'm traveling the world in search of friends to help. Suddenly, she was surrounded by monkeys. Someone's been eating all our bananas, said one. Daphne looked around. Under the tree, there was a pile of banana peels. She counted them and wrote the numbers in her notebook. Then she drew the data. Aha, Daphne said. The culprit has been eating bananas from this tree. Everyone looked up. On the highest branch perched a toucan finishing a banana. Tango, shouted another monkey. These are our bananas. The toucan looked down at them, snorted, and flew away. The monkey turned to Daphne and said, Daphne, you helped us. Data saved the day. Will you be our friend? Are you here to stay? I'd love to be your friend, Daphne said to the monkeys, but it's too hot for me in the jungle. Next, Daphne journeyed undersea. So if you are of the ability to get the book, you can continue seeing Daphne's adventures. She travels undersea, to outer space, to the Arctic, and even helps a few kids with her data drawing skills. Eventually, you'll see that Daphne is able to help solve lots of problems for a variety of different creatures around the universe with her data drawing superpowers while also making friends. At the end of the book, there is a glossary of graphs, and the glossary of graphs contains information about 4 of the primary types of graphs that kids learn in elementary and middle school: bar charts, line graphs, pie charts, and scatter plots. And in this graph glossary, there are a variety of activity samples that you could do with kids as part of a graphing activity to teach them about the various types of graphs. And as I mentioned, you'll get links to some of the resources online that have printouts of the graphing activities, online learning videos, and even full scope lesson plans that a teacher could use to supplement math curriculum. So typically when we do our programs for a variety of kids, we'll read the book and they will get super excited because in each part of the book, we have the kids interact and kind of help interpret what the graph means. So as you saw in the jungle section, we'll ask the kids, which tree do you think has the most bananas? And they'll be able to see the graph and interpret that and find that, in fact, tree number 2 is where most of the bananas peels are hidden. And that's what leads us to the toucan. So you kind of get a feel for what the story's like. It's fun, it's an adventure. The visuals and the graphs are something that are illustrative and that kids can resonate with. And there's several other examples using different types of graphs throughout the story. So before we go into a sample activity, I'll give you some tips for how to make graphing and data fun for kids. A lot of times math, especially data and numbers, gets kind of a bad reputation, and kids think it's boring or confusing because it's not done in a way that is engaging for the kids. So our 3 primary tips are: 1, make the data relevant. Choose a problem to solve or a question to answer that they're actually interested in. So rather than graphing the weather or colors of M&Ms in a packet, those aren't things that kids actually have any control over changing. Ask them what their favorite subject in school is, or what time of day they best learn in the classroom, or if they were to get a prize for good behavior, what they'd like to see. And take student polls and surveys using data that is something that they are curious about and can actually do something with. So make the data also interesting and appealing to the kids. So choose topics that are interesting to them, and choose types of graphs that are approachable for the age range that they're in, depending on their curriculum and what they're learning in school. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, we encourage you to make these activities actionable. So for example, we did a program at a school back in December where we asked the kids, as part of a survey, we asked about 180 third graders what after school club they would most likely participate in if it was made available to them. they voted, and the top two clubs were robotics and arts and crafts club. And so the principal got up at the end of the school assembly and said, because of this data and because of what we discovered through drawing the data in pie charts and bar graphs, we're going to be adding these two clubs starting in January to the school. This can work in smaller groups as well. If you're doing small groups, and by asking them what their favorite snack is or what type of book they might want to read. And at the end, asking them to say, what does the data tell us? And what can we do with this? What action are you going to take by drawing this data? Our hope is that kids become to the fact that they enjoy graphs and can use it to make important decisions in their life, whether it's saying, okay, I'm going to go to bed a little bit earlier because my data and my graph tells me that when I go to bed at an earlier time, I feel better. Or I'm going to choose a healthier snack because I've been tracking the data on how my tummy feels after I eat carrots or apples versus a candy bar after school. So that is really where the type of data becomes really impactful, when kids feel empowered and curious to collect it on their own and then use the data in a way that can impact their lives. So this is just some examples of the types of data that kids could find interesting. The process that we usually go through is selecting a question to answer, brainstorming the response options with the kids, giving them to kind of participate in that process, collecting the data, sharing the data, drawing the data, then doing that interpretation and helping them make an informed decision. So I'm curious, from all of your perspectives, you can either type in the chat or feel free to come off of mute. What types of questions or problems do you think the kids that you work with would find most interesting? And how might you collect some data from them to engage them in that process? Does anyone have ideas? Georgina, did you have an idea?
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
Okay, maybe not. Anyone else have any ideas? What types of questions or information would your kids be interested in? All right, I see Angie said that they voted on their favorite type of apple, so that's a fun one to do in the fall. Dinosaurs, I think, is what you're referring to, Kelly. Favorite types of dinosaurs. That's always a topic that kids like. Or favorite characters in TV shows, something like that. Yep, favorite movies, and perhaps with something like a favorite movie or a favorite book, you could make it actionable by saying, all right, next snow day, we're going to be watching our favorite movie, or we're going to read our favorite book. So they actually can do something with the data. And yeah, types of fruits could be interesting. There's a whole lesson plan in our educator guide that has instructions of creating a favorites bar chart. So you could do favorite type of fruit, favorite ice cream flavor, favorite summertime activity, any favorite types of animals, favorite characters, anything can be a favorite. And then asking the kids, all right, what does this data tell us? Maybe it tells us that apples are our favorite types of fruit, so we have more of that for snack. Or it tells us that we love dogs, and so next time we choose a story or an activity that revolves around that. So great ideas, and again, that helps us make the data actionable. There is a link, and you'll get copies of the slides. There's a link that has a 7-minute video on how to create a survey for kids. So that could easily be something that you could do in your types of programs. All right, we've gotten to the activity portion. So I'm going to demo a graphing activity that would be something similar to what you could do with your kids, just so you get a feel for it. I will say that this is much more exciting and fun to do in person when you can actually interact with them, but we'll do a demo virtually, knowing that when you're with the kiddos in person, you can use flip charts or whiteboards or a bunch of markers and crayons to make it even more interactive. So the graphing activity we're going to do today is collecting data on what is your favorite way to engage kids after school. So Jill is going to be launching a poll in a minute, and you'll have an opportunity to vote for any of these options. You may have another option in mind or another idea of how you'd want to engage kids after school, but for the simplicity of this exercise, you can just choose from one of these options. So we'll have Jill launch the poll, and you'll have an opportunity to vote on one of these items. And Jill, I'll let you tell me when we have all the results in.
Sounds good. We're at about 13 of 16.
Oh, great. Okay, we'll give it another couple seconds.
And that is probably good.
All right. I'll let you close the poll, and I am going to type the answers in here so we can all right. So we are going to just, for, again, simplicity's sake, kind of make this out of 100. I just use the rough percentages. So this was the answer. These are the answers to the poll. I'll put these back up in a minute. And what I will have each of you do is take just a piece of paper or, notepad or whatever you have in front of you. And we're going to draw the graphs. Now, you all might know how to draw a bar graph, but I'll explain it as you would to the kids. So the first step when you're drawing your piece of paper is to draw the axes. So we have the y-axis here, which has numbers in groups of 5, counting all the way up to 25. You could make it up to 30, 50. It depends on how many votes you have. But the y-axis has the number of votes here. And then the x-axis along the bottom has the variety of options: an activity, a story time, an outside game, an art project, or show and tell. So as an example, if we take art project, which got 7 votes, you'd go to the art project, you'd find that it got 7 votes. So you'd go to art project, you'd find 5. Okay, it's a little over 5, so we're 7. And you draw a nice little bar going up to 7. And then you do the rest of them, drawing the height of the bar matching what the number of votes would be on the y-axis. So I'll give you all a couple minutes to draw your graphs and see what you come up with. I'll put the votes back up so you can see the numbers. I'll give you one more minute. It's okay if you don't have your graph finished. The basic idea is to just get a graph started, draw the axes, draw a couple of bars. All right. For the sake of time, we'll move on for today, but you can get the idea of what the activity is like. So if you were in person, what you'd be able to do is actually draw a sample of the graph up on a whiteboard or a flip chart or a sample piece of paper. So the kids would get an idea of what the bar chart looked like and then give them the opportunity to draw their own bar charts. Again, depending on age appropriate level, maybe for the 4 and 5-year-olds, you just draw the example and have them kind of interact and maybe help color in some of the bars. For second graders through fifth graders, maybe they're drawing their own bar charts, and then upgrades, you might have them draw a more complex type of graph like a scatter plot. But the purpose here is to collect the data and then give the kids a chance to draw the data in their own graph so they can see what it looks like when the numbers transform into a visual. And then the last step here is to discuss and interpret. So you might look at the graphs and ask, what does this graph tell us? So if you're looking at your own graph, what's one observation that someone has from looking at the graph? Feel free to shout it out or come off mute or put it in the chat. Story time is a well-loved activity. Yep, story time is the favorite. That's a great observation. I'm glad it's helping you as an adult too. I agree. Visuals are a fabulous way to see the data rather than just the numbers. Yeah, so you might see story time is a activity that we all love. You might also be able to say, that there are a few activities that are more popular than others. You could also make the observation that someone likes all of these activities. So whichever one you choose is likely to be popular among the kids. So those are a couple of observations. You can notice some patterns. And then you might ask the kids at the end, how can we use this data to make an informed decision? So maybe as a group here, we're able to use the data to say, if you were a sampling of kids, we could say, all right, we're going to do story time for the next few activities, or find a way to incorporate more stories or books into our out of school time programs, because that seems like the most popular option. So do you all kind of get a feel for what the activity looks like, from the collection of the data to the drawing the data to the interpreting and discussing of the data? Is that clear? Hopefully so. Great. Thank you, Valencia. So I'll give an example on this next slide on what the favorites bar chart activity looks like. And again, there's links in here. You'll get copies of the slide where you can download the full educator guide. It has complete lesson plans, even though, many of you are likely not teachers in an actual elementary school because you're, part of the WOSTA group. You might be able to use some of the lesson plans within the activities that you create, blending together that story time, which we saw was a favorite activity, by reading the book, along with that hands-on activity. So there's a lot more here, but this is a sampling of what the favorites bar chart activity could look like, that can be customized to whatever favorite you want. Favorite dinosaur, favorite animal, favorite ice cream, favorite fruit, all those types of favorites. And then finally, you'll have the opportunity to click on any of these links or scan that you can, if you want to look at it now, you're welcome to scan the QR code on this slide. And that'll take you directly to the Daphne Draws Data website. On the website, you'll be able to search through both the Educators Hub. There's also a hub for parents to see a variety of different graphing activities, discussion guides, download the Educators Guide. There's a YouTube channel that has some awesome how-to videos, how to create a line graph, a scatter plot, a bar chart, so on and so forth. There's some examples of how to interpret data with kids, how to create a survey, how to do a graphing exercise with mixed ages, tons of different information that's at your fingertips there. And then you can also check out some of the events that we've been doing to see what schools we're going to, the podcast episodes where you can hear from Cole, the CEO and author, talk about her idea behind Daphne and our mission with that, and then some testimonials from organizations where we have done live events and programming. And then there's the adult storytelling with data content available for you as well. My ask of you after this is if you have thoughts or ideas or questions that came from this very short snapshot and then from your further explanation or exploration on the website, to send them to me. You can get my contact information from Jill. I'm happy to share that. And if you know of any schools or organizations that might enjoy a Daphne Draws Data interactive live program, feel free to reach out to me as well. So with our few remaining minutes, I'd love to open it up to questions and comments, anything else that people might want to mention before we end today.
So Caitlin, I will just get this started. For folks who have the younger, we saw some folks have young children within their care. Any suggestions to them? Maybe it's just reading the book and seeing how kind of that math is used. What are your suggestions for kids who have those really young, not quite school aged children?
Yes, that's a great question because we get a lot of siblings at our programs and people that have young kids, at home. I'd say at the very basic form, Daphne Draws Data is a fun and cute story that kids love hearing. So even if you don't actually do the graphing activities, if it's a 2 or a 3-year-old, just reading the story can be really fun for kids. We saw that story time is a super popular activity. So just having the book as a story, because I really believe that the earlier you plant seeds with kids, the better they're going to be able to learn as they get older. So if you read Daphne Draws Data to a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, then once they get into school and start learning about bar charts, they've already seen what a bar chart looks like in the story. You'll probably have to read it more than once, but it does start planting those seeds early on. And it's just a really fun, cute story that kids really enjoy. Any other questions or comments? If not, you are welcome to take a screenshot of this slide. It has the QR code, the website, it has our basic email, which is how you can contact me if you'd like to learn a little bit more or start, on your own personal data drawing adventure. And yeah, please reach out with anything that comes up. We try to make this accessible for all kids. So we don't want to make cost an inhibiting factor or anything else. So if you have thoughts, that would be fabulous. Oh, I'm seeing Nikki's question in the chat. Okay, could you do it open-ended and giving them materials that guide them through if they're a younger audience? So yeah, you certainly could do kind of an open-ended type of activity also. Keep it simple and make it fun for kids, make it accessible, and just know that there are a lot of different ways that you can customize it depending on the age range. And check out that video on the YouTube channel about how to do a graphing activity with kids of mixed ages, because we have done a variety of programs where there's kids from starting at 1 year old all the way up to 15 years old. So we've had experience with that, and I'm happy to answer questions. But yeah, otherwise, Jill, I'll turn it back over to you if you have any last things to wrap up here.
Thank you, Caitlin. This was great. I had an opportunity to meet Caitlin and go through some of this, and wanted to introduce this STEM process for folks. I want to just say thank you, all of you, for the work that you're doing on behalf of children and families in the state of Wisconsin. We really hope that you have an opportunity in the next coming weeks to utilize this information and the strategies that we shared here today with your children or even with others. So I also want to say, to learn more about WASTA and our professional development opportunities, in addition to this series, they can be found on our WASTA website, which is www.wosta.org. So thank you all so much for joining us today.